Okay, so let's talk about Eli Lilly. In 2025, they didn't just have a good year, they had an absolutely staggering industry-redefining year, raking in over $65 billion. The real question is, how on earth did they do it? What's it mean for the rest of us? And, what's next?
The whole thing really boils down to this one powerful question. How did one single company completely change the game for treating one of the biggest health challenges on the planet? Well, the answer is kind of a perfect storm of incredible science, massive demand, and just blockbuster sales.
And really, to get your head around just how wild this story is, all you have to do is look at the numbers. Seriously, the financials tell a story of explosive growth that has everyone from Wall Street to your next-door neighbor paying attention.
So let's start with the big picture, right? We're going to look at the results from just the final quarter of 2025. These are the numbers that sent total shockwaves through the market. In just 3 months, Lilly pulled in $19.3 billion in revenue. To put that into perspective, that's more than a lot of really successful companies make in an entire year. It's just a mind-boggling figure.
And we're not talking about some small bump here. That $19.3 billion, that's a 43% jump in revenue compared to the same time last year. You just don't see that kind of growth in a company this big. It's almost unheard of. So what in the world is driving all this?
Well, the answer, really, it all comes down to two products. Two names that you've probably heard, which have basically become synonymous with a whole new era in medicine. They've completely turned this company's fortunes upside down.
All right, let's meet the stars of the show. Mounjaro, which is approved for type 2 diabetes, and Zepbound, which is actually the same exact molecule but approved for chronic weight management. I mean, these two drugs have kicked off an absolute gold rush.
The speed of this growth is it's breathtaking. Look at this. In a single year, Mounjaro's revenue more than doubled, a 110% jump. And Zepbound, it did even better, rocketing up by 123%. This isn't just growth, folks. This is a market-wide explosion.
So what's the magic here? How do they work? Well, both of these drugs belong to a class called incretins. And to put it simply, they basically mimic hormones in your gut that help control blood sugar and, this is the key part, they tell your brain that you feel full. It's amazing science, and Lilly just harnessed it to create these unbelievably effective medicines.
And this chart just shows you how dominant they've become. Zepbound now makes up almost 70% of all new prescriptions in the branded obesity market. Meanwhile, its twin, Mounjaro, has over 55% of new scripts in its class for type 2 diabetes. So they're not just playing in the market, they're running the whole show, by a mile. But here's the kicker. This is the crazy part. As amazing as all this success is, Lilly's own CFO basically says they're just getting started. He points out that they've only reached a tiny fraction, just mid-single digits, of the people who could potentially benefit. The runway for future growth, it's just immense.
So, okay, how do you follow up an act like this? How does Lilly build on such a historic success? Well, trust me, they are not resting on their laurels. They are already deep into developing the next wave of treatments.
So there are two new drugs you're going to want to watch, orforglipron and retatrutide. Orforglipron could be a total game changer because it's a pill, an oral daily pill, which could just blow the market wide open for people who don't want injections. And then you've got retatrutide. This thing is a next-generation injectable. They call it a triple agonist, which is just a fancy way of saying it's designed to be even more powerful by hitting 3 different hormone receptors all at once.
And the early results for retatrutide? Wow, they are just absolutely stunning. A recent phase 3 trial showed it led to an average weight loss of 29%. 29! For a lot of people, that's a level of effectiveness you could previously only get from major surgery.
And it's so important to remember, Lilly isn't just a one-trick pony here. Their R&D team is firing on all cylinders. Take their oncology drug, pirtobrutinib. It just showed an 80% reduction in the risk of progression or death for a type of leukemia. It just goes to show they have a really deep, robust pipeline across a bunch of different areas. But this kind of crazy, unprecedented success, it creates its own set of massive challenges. Lilly is now in the middle of this high-stakes balancing act between managing insane growth, meeting unbelievable demand, and, of course, making sure patients can actually get the stuff.
So to deal with this demand, they are investing on a scale that is just historic.
Since 2020, Lilly has put over $55 billion into expanding its manufacturing. This is the biggest manufacturing build-out in the company's entire history, all just to try and make enough of these medicines.
And at the same time, they have to deal with pricing. They've made a deal with the U.S. government for a $50 a month copay for people on Medicare and Medicaid. Now that's going to lower the price they get per person, but the strategy is pretty clear. They are betting that the sheer volume of millions of new patients who can now get access will more than make up for it. It's a classic bet, price versus volume.
And here's what that path to broader access looks like. That oral pill, orforglipron, should launch in mid-2026. Right after that, on July 1st, the new Medicare access kicks in. And then by 2027, they expect even more states to add Medicare coverage, which is going to open the door for millions and millions more patients. So, what's the big takeaway here? Lilly's growth is being supercharged by these two incredible drugs, Mounjaro and Zepbound. They've got an even more powerful lineup of drugs coming down the pipeline. They're pouring billions and billions of dollars into manufacturing just to try and keep up. And all of this leads to their biggest challenge. How do you balance these record-breaking profits with the need for broad, affordable access for patients? Which leaves us with one final and really critical question. Eli Lilly's unbelievable success isn't just reshaping a company, it is fundamentally reshaping healthcare itself. But with competition heating up and the pressure for access growing every day, can they actually maintain this delicate balance and stay ahead in the revolutionary race that, for right now, they're absolutely winning?